Morning, campers. Well, we say morning, say that every time. It's not quite morning, is it? It's 1 minute past 12. So, nice to be here again on another beautiful day in Boxroom Studios in the Costa del Bridge End. Happy Youth Work Week. It is Youth Work Week, which is amazing. It's amazing that we live in a country so civilised that we have a week where we recognise youth work, which, speaking as a former youth worker, I can say is marvellous, because I don't think, certainly back in the day when I was doing it, I don't think it was really thing that got a great deal of press and exposure and that kind of stuff. So, but we're certainly going to give it some today. And I'll do a bit of introductions in a moment. So just to say, if you're new to this, we're streaming live on the Facebook Troubled Kids group. My name is Jonny Matthew. I'm a social worker and a criminologist by training. But this is not particularly all about that. This is just me being available during lockdown to see if we can be helpful, really, and be useful, and try and sort of gather like-minded people together to just to swap ideas and share inspiration and all that kind of stuff. So welcome. I think what we'll do is, I'm just looking at your comments. You're in and you can hear me, which is amazing, so thank you for that. So let's go to our ever amusing and smile-inducing theme tune. Well, there we are. I do love that. I do love that. Maybe it appeals to something in all of us to want to be a bit of a star, and to have a bit of a to have to speak immediately after a riff like that is just tremendously self-satisfying in some for some reason. Anyway, there we are. So just for those of you who are new, what we tend to do is split the. It's about an hour or so that we tend to be on live. So we tend to split that up a little bit. We'll have some posts from the Troubled Kids group from this week. Just share a couple of those just to bring people's attention to that, really. We normally then take questions. And then later on, we'll do a website review. And then we've got a book giveaway. I'm going to suspend the questions this week because I'm going to keep those. We've got an interview coming up with my mate and TRM colleague and all-round good egg, Dusty Kennedy, from the Interim Youth Work Board here in Wales. So we've got kind of loads of stuff we want to talk about because it is Youth Work Week. We want to celebrate youth work, chew the fat on that a little bit. And if you guys want to dive in with any questions for Dusty, you can put them in the comments as we go. Today I'm going to give away another copy of this. I was thinking about something to do with youth work and stuff, given it's Youth Work Week, and realised I'd left it too late. So I thought, well, this is so kind of full of just sort of principles and values and practice ideas, all of which will feed in and relate very well to the youth work context. So I thought I'll just give another copy of my book away. That's my last one. I'm going to need to order a bunch more of those away. The publisher thinks it's selling all right, but actually it's me who's buying them all. So anyway, there we are. So stay on till the end. That's the last thing we do at about 5 to 1, the book giveaway. So we'll get to that. And lastly, by way of prelims, if you're watching on YouTube, that way, please subscribe so that we can make sure you get the videos as they go live. Today's video, Dusty and I and our colleague Dr. Tricia Scouse from the TRM Academy are training this afternoon with some people from Bristol, streaming, well, it's a webinar, live webinar, an introduction to the trauma recovery model. It's part 2 of a kind of 2 half-day things with them. So I'm not going to have time to load up the YouTube video till this evening or tomorrow morning. So Just bear with us if you are looking forward to the YouTube replay to send on to people and stuff if you're live now. Right, there we go. Lovely. Enough preliminary jabbering from me. So, posts in the group this week. So, there was a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. The first one was that Susie Lambert put a question in the group. Thank you for that, Susie. It's a really good question. She just said, "Hi all, I'm putting together a presentation on improving behaviour across education settings. I'd be interested in hearing from some of you lovely people any experience where you feel the system is letting some of the young people down and where you think improvements could be made. It'd be great to hear your thoughts." So I wanted to kind of just highlight that. That's in the Troubled Kids group. There's a post there from Susie. You'll see that. I think that was between last week's live stream and this one. So somewhere between 18th and 24th of June, you should be able to find that in the group news feed. And I just think that's a really good thing to get behind. Education has got a monumental challenge on its hands, particularly now coming out of lockdown, kids going back in. But it's also got a challenge on its hands dealing with such a vast sector, thousands, well, millions of kids, and staying up with research in our area around engaging particularly troubled and distressed children, about trauma-informed practice. There's some brilliant practice going on in education around that. But I think if we've got an opportunity for a voice, let's do it. And in a small way, I think we can do that by helping Susie with this. So please get on and comment about that. Forgive me, I can't remember who posted this one. I'm just going to share my screen with you. This is a research in... Oh, no, this is Martin. Thank you, Martin Hatton posted this one. So this is... there's a link in the description, I believe, and you can certainly find it if you're in the group feed. It's trauma-informed responses in relationship-based practice, and it's from Research in Practice, so it's a really good, reliable source rather. So I just thought I'd highlight this for you. I'm not going to take a trip around other things. I might do a Research in Practice website review at a future point, but I thought trauma-informed responses in relationship-based practice is really important because, and I think particularly in Youth Work Week, because there's an assumption that relationship-based practice is necessarily trauma-informed, and it may not be. And I think there's also the assumption that people who understand trauma-informed practice will be relating to people relationally. Now, whilst you'd like to think those two things were inclusive and in some ways synonymous with each other, in actual fact, in my experience, they're not. I've met so many people now over the years who say, "Oh yeah, I kind of do trauma-informed stuff. I'm kind of really down there with the kids. I relate. It's all about relationship." And then you kind of ask them a little bit about, you know, what trauma is even, and kind of how trauma influences children, and how we can kind of know about that from a clinical perspective, how we can get on board with the specific challenges of this child and then adapt our relational approach to that. Actually, they haven't got a clue, and they don't really think it through because they assume that their intuitive relational way of working will cut the mustard. Now, sometimes it will, probably by default or by kind of serendipity. It's more luck than judgment, if you like. But a lot of the time it won't. And equally, the fact that we are trauma-informed can mean we're very incisive about the impact of what this particular child or young person or adult has been through, but we may not then be very skilled or adept in a relationship-based way of working that can be often the best vehicle for something that relies on empathy and trust building and relational engagement. So I think this post is actually quite useful for that because it speaks to these two things melding together. And I wanted to particularly flag up this. I don't know if you can see that very clearly on there. There's a diagram here from Sweeney et al. 2016. I don't know what that source is. I haven't looked at it yet. But it just looks at what particular bits of practice mean for services, but also what that feels like to young people. So it says here, recognition of trauma. What does that mean for the service? Well, it means finding a way to check out if anything has happened to a young person in our care. Is there trauma in their history? You know, what do we know? What is the nature of it? And gently kind of teasing that out and giving that a kind of airing, if you like, is important. But in terms of what does that feel like to the young person? Well, it feels like I'm being seen and believed for who I am. You're not caricaturing me purely by my trauma experience, but you're not coming to me just as a client of your service either. You're coming to me to listen, to hear what I've got to say, knowing what's happened to me, but treating me as I am, working with me to co-create an intervention that's going to work for me. That's what it's taught. And I just thought that was really handy, really. It gives both the kind of, unpacks kind of areas of trauma-informed practice, if you like, then asks what does that require for a service and what it feels like to the young people. So that's researchingpractice.org.uk, and it's trauma-informed responses in relationship-based practice. So that was it really for the questions this week, and not questions, the posts from the week. So if you have things that you want to share, there's a lot of people every day. I'm clicking new people into the group, so if you're new, welcome. Please put stuff in the group, questions you've got, training, resources that you're aware of, ideas, good websites, books, resource materials, anything that will be useful for professionals but also parents working with and to help troubled kids. Please put them in there. Right. Quick look into the comments. Let's just see who's in. Right. Hi Tarina. Hi Mel. Thank you. Glad you can hear it. Okay. Caroline from MPT Yacht. Hiya. Cheryl. Morning. Loud and clear. Good. Too loud and sometimes not clear enough. People who know me might say. But there we are. Thank you for that. Tim, welcome, mate. Glad you're able to be on. Please get in the comments and chip in, mate, if you've got stuff to say when we're discussing the youth work specific stuff later. Hi, Sean. Hi, David. Emma Louise. Oh, I'm glad you ordered a copy of Betsy's book. Brilliant. It is outstanding. I had to order. I was going to part with... I had one, lent it to somebody, bought another one, and was going to give that away and couldn't part with it, so I had to order another one. So I've ordered another one and sent that to Rihanna. But it is an outstanding book, and there's a link in the description for that as well. Hi, Johnny. Wanted to say thank you for committing to every Wednesday. And I've now put lunch hour time in my work calendar. Come on. You should be a tutor on the self-care course, yeah? That's brilliant. Yeah, moving in the right direction of self-care. Hi, Lisa Davis. Good to see you. From MPT, big shout out to all Newport Talbot foster carers. Lisa and I train together sometimes with those guys. It's great. Rhiannon, your book is in the post. I posted it last night, so you should have it, if not later today, tomorrow morning. Ellie, welcome. Can we order signed ones? You can, actually. Just email me and I'll send you signed ones of mine if you like. I'll have to order a few because I haven't got any left, but I'm more than willing to do that, Ellie, if that's... you realise if I sign it, it'll be worth less on eBay later than an unsigned one. But there we are. That's fine. You're very welcome to have that. Hi, Kev. My best to Sheila and Wendy and everybody at NWG and Derby. Mary, hi. Lynn. And Deborah, great, good to have you all on. Anyway, lovely, 30 of you on, so there's more on. I can't say hello if I don't know you there, so thanks for that. Okay, we are going to move now to our interview with Dusty. I'm slurring my words just so that he knows it's coming. Oh, he's on and smiling. Okay, we've never done this before, and you should know that we've been on a journey for 2 months trying to understand this the technology. So we've got our head around Zoom and that was like falling off a log, but we've been learning new software, video and sound editing software, OBS, that we could stream on here, and now we're trying to pull Zoom into this. But at the same time, Dusty, who has his Twitch stream, is looking to stream this stream in Twitch. So if that's not Wheels Within Wheels, I don't know. But anyway, we're gonna give it a go. So we need a sound effect. We need a round of applause. So here we go. There we go, mate. You're on.
Hello.
Hello. You haven't got beer, have you?
No, it's
red wine.
Vimto.
Oh.
That's all there is in your green room. I was very
Oh, is that right? You're my digital green room with nothing in it at all. Oh, there we are. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's fab. It's fab to have you here. Have you got the Twitch stream up and running?
It defeated me.
Ah, okay. We'll work on it, man. We'll work on it.
The sound was echoing back, and you would have been able to hear it over my mic now. So
that's the trouble. Yeah, I've moved my mic.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously I've got it paused on Facebook. I'm going to put it out afterwards.
Ah, lovely. Great.
Do a little intro, put it out, and
fantastic. Lovely. Well, I've got your Twitch stream. So Dusty's Twitch stream is under his image now. You can see that on there. So I mentioned to the guys last week, Dusty, about Twitch, and it's if you're going to be deep down with the kids, you've got to be on Twitch, or at least you need to click through and watch it from time to time. But just make an account like you do for anything else and get on. So there we are. Yeah. Okay, so
you can actually just watch it from a browser. You don't even need an account.
Oh really? Yes, you can. I know, but you can't. Yeah,
but find. If you want to comment.
Yes, if you want to comment, and I get the same inane young youth on talking in a language I don't understand every time he's up front. He must just be a really popular one, which just proves how not down with the kids I am. But anyway, there we are. Okay, so Dust, you sit on the Wales Interim Youth Work Board. I know you're a director with me at the TRM Academy, and you were formerly my boss at the Youth Justice Board in Wales. Welcome to the growing alumni of people who've tried to manage me over the years.
I didn't even try, mate.
No, that's why it worked. So you were formerly a youth worker. So tell us a bit about that. How did you get into youth work?
I got into youth work. What I think now is a quite a common way for some of the students I've met when I've been going around as a member of the Youth Work Board. I got into youth work because I'd been in a bit of a tight spot myself.
Yeah.
And so I was doing a PhD at university. I was doing it in political philosophy, and it was a postmodern critique of liberal theory.
Is that right?
It is, and it involved reading a lot of Nietzsche and Heidegger. And it's really deep German philosophy.
Proper deep German stuff, yeah.
And the long and short of it is that it asks you, or it forces you to do a lot of introspection and looking at what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you might have heard the thing from Nietzsche about staring into the abyss.
Yes.
So I stared into the abyss, and it stared back, and it grabbed hold of me, and it pulled me in.
Yeah.
And I ended up stopping doing my PhD. I ended up going back to building like my dad had taught me how to do.
Yeah.
And a couple of years in, I was in a proper state of depression, to be honest.
All right.
I was, picture me sitting outside Asda in my builder's van, wolfing down. I remember really clearly wolfing down pumpkin muffins, which were on special, when I should have been at someone's house doing some work.
I mean, those are the three concepts you'd never imagine in one sentence: builder, pumpkin muffins, and Nietzsche. I mean, talk about diversity.
So I had a really good friend who I obviously spotted I was in a bit of a pickle, because I was doing that classic bloke depression thing of not telling anybody anything.
No, absolutely.
But having fantasies about train tracks and cliffs and things, that kind of thing.
Singing Whitesnake, Here I Go Again on My Own, while weeping quietly in your van.
Yeah. But I had a really good friend, and she kind of spotted I was in a bit of a spot, and she very subtly suggested that I might want to get involved in her work, which she was running the volunteering program in Swansea for, among other things, sort of mentoring appropriate adults with young people and stuff. So anyway, I went and I did some training as a mentor and started volunteering as a mentor. And through that, I just, as the training progressed, I, linked it up with one of my hobbies that didn't involve pumpkin muffins, which was going out climbing and walking in the hills.
Yeah.
And I went on a week's youth work outdoor ed type course, and just fell in love with the whole thing really, and from there managed to get my first job as a youth worker, as a detached youth worker, which was a really interesting experience, a really sort of strange experience for a start, you know, because I didn't know really what youth work was until somebody told me I was training as a youth worker. I'd been doing it, you know, for a while. And it's an interesting experience to be doing this thing and for it to involve going out in the streets and hanging around and trying to make friends with children. As a job description.
that could be a career-ending move in any kind of in any other field, couldn't it?
If you think about it in other terms, it's an odd one. But anyway, that was my getting into youth work, and that developed really from my patch, where my patch was in quite a deprived area, still is, you know. So a lot of the young people that I was engaging with were almost, I mean, I said a bit this yesterday, I spoke to Keith Towler from the board, almost like living in a reality that was slightly to one side of the reality of the type of young people who, you know, get up in the morning, go to school, you know, that kind of thing. And I just found it absolutely intriguing. And I think looking back, my interest in philosophy and my interest in what makes people tick and you know, where we get the motivations that we have from and how things form like that, just found a spot to do something in the real world. And I've often thought in my career, like going from that into youth justice and then into policy, that the thing that chucked me out of the PhD was the lack of link to the real world. You know, I needed something to fill that of this, and that's what it was really. So then, after my career developed, and I've, you know, been in civil service, public service. Not long as I was finishing with the Youth Justice Board. That saw the advert for the Youth Work Board, and it just, you know, touched something in me in terms of rights-based practice and all those things I've been trying to introduce into the youth justice system in Wales. I just thought it'd be great to re-broaden my horizons and go back to that youth work route.
Great. Wow, what a journey though. It's amazing. I mean, looking back, you can see how it worked out, but I imagine in your pumpkin muffin days, you would never have thought you'd end up where you are. So tell us about the board then. So it's the Wales Interim Youth Work Board, is that right?
That's right.
Tell us what it is and what you're doing.
It's a ministerially appointed body. It's not statutory. It's like it's not really a quango either, or, you know, a non-departmental body. It's an advisory group to the Welsh Government that was set up in order to give some advice about how to approach the reforms and the improvements that have been identified through several reports and Assembly committee inquiries to youth work in Wales, particularly the strategic direction of youth work in Wales. And I don't think it's kind of given away any secrets to say that there was a pretty strained relationship between Welsh Government and the sector over a period, because there was a feeling, I think, that the strategic approach had sort of lost its way after sort of the heady days of extending entitlement. And for any of your viewers who are in other jurisdictions, extending entitlement was, I suppose, the Welsh way of conceptualising what kind of a life, what's a good life for a young person, and trying to be able to organise the way we deliver services to young people through a rights-based approach, which helps to fill in the gaps for young people who haven't been able to access that good life. So it was things like, you know, an entitlement to a foreign experience in terms of going abroad and widening horizons, or an entitlement to getting outdoor experiences, an entitlement to volunteering and citizenship, all those things that when I'm doing my do now as a kind of middle class parent, I'm nudging my kids towards almost subconsciously. But when I look on the experiences they've had the classic I hope they might say different, but they've had the classic extending entitlement stuff. So there was a period, I guess, of the headiness of youth work in Wales. And it had waned a bit, and I think that the focus had gone very much onto almost justifying youth work by saying it was a support for education and a support for training rather than a thing that's good in and of itself. So we were appointed by the minister to help to get together from a range of different backgrounds to advise on the strategic directions. So we advised on a new strategy that the Welsh Government published last year. And also we are trying as far as possible to not just be a sort of central group of wise asses who are so it should be. What we want to do is amplify the voice of the sector. We want to be able to be in a position of leadership, but it's not our leadership per se. It's holding a microphone and a speaker to the sector so that they can step forward and help us co-create what things should look like. And also, really importantly, making sure that microphone is pointed at young people as well, because they're a key part of how we create things together.
Totally. And I mean, I know we've talked before, and I was listening to your stream on Twitch with Keith earlier. For anybody who's watching, you can see that there's a link to it in the description on the Troubled Kids group, and it'll be in the YouTube description as well if you want to watch Dusty's interview with Keith Tower. It's a really good interview about Keith chairs the Interim Youth Work Board, and Dusty obviously sits as part of that board, so that's worth looking at. So I know when you were, and one of the things we've talked about is that Twitch is the place where kids are these days. That's the online experience. They spend more time watching other people gaming and streaming than they do watching telly. They certainly don't watch telly really these days. They might occasionally stray to a DVD, but they're all online. It's Netflix and Amazon Prime at the least, but actually they're even deeper into the digital world than we are. And one of the things, reasons behind you doing the Twitch stream was to make that available so that kids can plug in, young people can plug in and look at that and maybe contribute to that. So we have a comment from Mel. Hi Mel, thanks for this, because I think it'll just kind of lead into this idea about what youth work is, how it fits, and where it might go. So Mel says, hi Jonny, I'm joining the chat later. I don't really have a question, but I've been a youth worker for nearly 20 years. My role has changed a lot over the years, and what I'm doing now doesn't look like traditional youth work. I work for the local authority and alongside social care. But what I find is that there is little understanding of what youth work is. And social care will always request that a young person requires a youth worker to take them out for activities. This, however, is unrealistic. Most of the time due to budget constraints. It can be very frustrating due to other professionals' lack of understanding around youth work. Can you speak to that a little bit from your perspective?
Absolutely. This is something that's a real focus for us in the board, and you know, it's there and in the strategy. It's coming loud and clear from the members of the people who've stepped forward from the sector to be on our what we call strategic participation groups, which is a grand title. But they're just some really, really good people who are coming together and advising us, co-creating things. The first thing I would like really want to interrogate on this, you know, or to think about is traditional youth work.
Yes, I did. That struck me. Yeah.
What traditional youth work is, because the other thing that it's really clear is that I think because youth work has tended to try to either justify itself or be justified by others. As something that's not itself.
Right.
So it will be, youth work is great because it makes education outcomes better, or youth work is great because it's really good for kids' mental health, and you know, youth work is great because it's got a special place and a special role, and it's good in and of itself. And it's also great because there's a really legitimate thing that human beings have to do at all ages, but especially when you're young, and that's to have fun and to play. And you and I know through what we do in terms of our training that playing is a huge way of learning about the world and finding yourself as a person.
Absolutely.
And we don't stop playing when we turn 11, and we don't stop playing when we turn 25.
No.
You know, just yesterday when Keith and I were waiting to do our stream, I'd found an online version of that old Binatone game, Pong.
Oh yeah, the one with the white things that go like this,
and we were sat there chatting, playing this, And we were talking, and the quality of our conversation was really free and open, and we were finding out a lot about ourselves.
Yeah.
But there's a real role for that kind of. I'm not saying youth work's all about playing by any
No,
means.
I know you're not.
There's some really, but I'm also not going to sit here trying to justify the fact that it can be really enjoyable.
Oh, absolutely.
And that it's a good thing in and of itself. So traditional youth work, I think, calling youth work targeted, universal, traditional, kind of misses the point for me.
Right.
Because you wouldn't do that about being a doctor.
No.
You wouldn't say, well, I'm a proper doctor because I'm in general practice, or I'm a proper doctor because I'm doing doctoring with Médecins Frontières over in Afghanistan, or I'm a proper doctor because I do the real stuff, all about, the renal system, and you mess about with the pancreas, and that's ridiculous. They're all doctors wherever they are. So I would take it as a huge compliment that social services are wanting you to do what you're good at and use your skills. But I would also really share your frustration in that there's a huge misinterpretation about what youth work is out there in different sectors, and a lack of understanding. And it can go two ways. I remember when I was a detached youth worker, it was like there'd be some kind of spike of antisocial behaviour somewhere. And there'd be the bat signal would go up in the air. And it was like, get the detached youth workers in, they'll sort it out. To mix my TV shows, then the A-team van would pull up, and we'd all like pile into it and get out of the truck, and we'd like fire our youth work bullets, obviously not killing anyone, like they never did on the A-team.
Yes, I was gonna say.
I mean, that was also a load of nonsense. But the thing is that I think youth work approaches can go into any sector. Now, when I had the contract for Park YOI, and I used to go in, and every now and again I do monitoring visits for my staff if they're on holiday, and I just like to go and talk to young people, to be honest. I'd go into Park, and he's had several managers there, and one of the managers never trained as a youth worker. He was out of the armed forces, but by God, he was a youth worker, and his relationship with the lads in Park was so. It felt like a really good youth club when you went in there, and there were bars everywhere, big doors and echoes and all that kind of stuff, and cells. But you could tell the way he spoke to and he interacted with the young people came from that philosophy and that what were the pillars of youth work that we talk about in Wales. So what I would like to see, and what we'd like to see on the board, is to have every sector open to have youth workers work in them, be recognised as youth workers. Be one sector together, whether they're from the statutory sector or the voluntary sector, and then that to them be the champion and the advocate of youth work, and to spread the understanding of youth work by the fact that people work with youth workers. Right. So when I first went into youth justice, and I came in as a detached youth worker, fresh detached youth worker, is an intensive supervision and support worker. I didn't walk through the yacht doors and suddenly become something different. I just carried on working like I was as if I was a youth worker. And my colleagues, because there were a number of us youth workers brought into the youth offending team, suddenly got to understand what youth work was. Right. They were with us doing it. Absolutely. So really, that's our ideal. Obviously, the realities of resources. And austerity, and now potentially the double austerity we're going to get after this pandemic.
We're going to have austerity with bells and whistles on after this, aren't we? But,
So you could give up the ghost and say, well, we're going to become an even scarcer resource. Or what we must do is use it as an opportunity to emphasise the value. And have we seen the value with the pandemic and the response that youth workers have made?
Oh, absolutely.
They have been. Talk about key workers. They have been key workers.
Oh, crumbs. I mean, like never before, I suggest. So let's just speak to that a minute, because there's something there about, I mean, we've talked about, briefly we alluded to austerity. We've talked about the interface with other agencies. Mel, in her question, talked about budgets and constraints and things like that. What's the nub of it in terms of this idea? See, to me, youth work is such I know I've heard you say it before. I think it may be talking to Keith about the delivery landscape is incredibly complex, because it tends to seep into gaps, and it also depends on people who budget holders and commissioners locally and their decisions they make, and so on. But how do we get youth work on a footing where it's ubiquitous and part of the landscape properly?
Yeah. So, I mean, I spoke a bit about Mr. Keith yesterday, so, you know, if anyone's seen that, so apologies to go over old ground, but it's worth repeating. My experience, what my experience told me when I moved into policy and I moved into being a person who wanted stuff to happen in the world.
Yeah.
So, well, my neighbour's just about to mow his lawn, I think, so I have to apologise. But at the time the sound comes
That's
up.
all right.
Anyway, I was a policy maker, inverted commas, and we wanted stuff to happen in the world. So you get a direction from the minister, you put options in front of the minister, and you give them options for how you can help stuff to happen in the world.
Yeah.
And you want to change for the good generally.
Yeah.
So the levers that you've got to achieve that, being removed, I mean, you're not only removed from face-to-face practice with young people because, you know, you're engaging with the people that work with them, but you're actually engaging with the managers of the people that work with them. And then you're actually engaging with the director of the, you know, and so it goes on. So you're several steps removed. So the levers you've got are money.
Yeah.
Is the important one.
Yeah.
So you give money out from the centre and you say, these are the things we'd like done with it, chaps.
Yeah.
And chapses.
Yeah.
Crack on.
Yeah.
And there are two flavours of money there. There's hypothecated or ring fence money, which is you don't get the money unless you do this.
Yeah.
And the other flavour of it is here's some money into your general pot. Local authorities I'm talking about really here at the moment. Here's some money into your general pot. It would be great if you could do some of this stuff. And then the people who receive that money, whether it's a principal youth officer or, you know, a director of the service, they go into bat then with their colleagues. Yeah. You know, and say, well, with this money really needs spending on youth work, please don't fix some roads with it. Please don't fix the toilets in the local school with it. Yeah. Some areas, they do really well. And a good proportion of that money goes on youth work. Some areas, it's not even 30%. Right. Goes on youth work. So those are the two financial levers. The next lever is guidance. Yeah. Which, you know, people can listen to or not really. Yeah. But then a really important one is statutory guidance and a statutory instrument or a law. Yes. And what that gives somebody at the local level is going into bat against their colleagues to make sure that money's spent and make sure the right things are done, is this piece of white paper with, you know, lots of clauses and paragraphs in it that says, Chief Executive, Council, Leader of the Council, you have got a statutory duty to do this. Yeah. So stop spending the youth work money on fixing the roads. Yes. Yeah. So I think, you know, we are, as a youth work board, and I think this is common to a lot of jurisdictions, not just Wales. Yeah. You know, a lot of it. I mean, I was working in Jersey a couple of years ago. They got an amazing youth service in Jersey, and they've got the full backing of the government there. And you know, they're out there all the time. But it would, just similar to us, it would take a change of administration. Yeah. For people to change their mind about that and maybe not prioritise that. But the beauty of a bit of legislation is more likely to ride the changes of different governments. Yeah. Yeah. So we got this. We're going to put in our first report. To Welsh government soon. We managed to write it, you know, because bearing in mind we're all volunteers. Yeah, of course. We don't get paid for it, you know, and we have to fit it in our day jobs. We're gonna. This report is very likely to suggest we need new legislation. Great. And similarly, because it's such that complex landscape, I've not even talked about the voluntary sector yet and the different types of voluntary sector. Yeah. Yeah. And they've got an even more difficult position because not only are they even further out, because they can't even go into bat in the council to make sure the money gets spent in a strategic way that benefits them. They're also looking side to side at the other people from different voluntary sector organisations, trying to find what niche they should deliver in their area. So given a situation like that, you know, the clarity of a central leadership function, which is what we're trying to step into, and the clarity of legislation to make sure that, you know, people have to do it. Yeah. Is one of the ways we're thinking about in terms of preserving what is an essential service. Oh, you know? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, do it, man. Just bloody write it in there. We need youth work on a statutory footing. That's the end of it. So we can't get rid of it ever. We can't cut its money, and that's what we need. I'm just going to whiz over to the comments. So stay there. Guys watching, I'm just going to go onto the main screen again. So it'll be just me reading the screen a minute. Bear with me while I
just have a look at the comments because I want to make sure if there's anybody. Let's have a look what we got here. Let's have a look. Tim's saying, Tim, can you see him?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
All right, he's moved on from ping pong and pool on a Friday night. This is still part of the offer.
Yeah.
But it's much broader than this. When carried out by trained professionals, includes a high level of planning, but allowing scope for spontaneity, evaluation, self-reflection. Job of work to do around articulating this to other professionals. Absolutely. Gary, youth work needs to be championed in all areas, become part of education. Has really stopped youth work being championed. I know there are some youth workers located in schools now in some places, and again, that there's you hear different things about that in different areas, but there's certainly value in it for some engagement activities with kind of kids who are on the edge of things around that. Yeah, interesting stuff. So just to finish then, because I've only got a couple of minutes, I know that we alluded to earlier this idea that youth work has risen to the challenge of the pandemic.
Yeah.
What are your observations on that?
So I think this actually touches on what we were talking, just a lot of these comments about youth work being in lots of different areas, lots of different sectors.
Yeah.
So what's really struck us, and me, as well, is how adaptable and responsive youth workers have been.
Yeah.
It's almost like the pandemic was their patch in the community, or
totally.
the pandemic was their youth centre or their outdoor ed or whatever they're doing. Because the context changed and they adapted.
Yes, they did.
Whole, and responded and kept the young person at the centre of it. So I guess my closest involvement really has been through chairing the digital group, which is one of the sort of strategy participation groups from the board.
Yeah.
So, like a week before the pandemic, I think we had our meeting 2 or 3 weeks before the pandemic.
Right.
One of the meetings, and we were talking about, usual moan that we had in the digital group, which was, we'd be able to do digital youth work much more easily if the risk-averse IT department in our local authority or voluntary sector organisation, you fill in it here, if they would let us use any of these methodologies. They won't let us go near Facebook. Even if we could go near it, our equipment doesn't support it. So that was 2-3 weeks before the pandemic. We had our next meeting, like lit an emergency get together, about a week and a half afterwards, and all that had been blown out of the water.
Of course, brilliant.
There was youth clubs happening by Zoom. There were Ask a Youth Worker was out on Twitter, and on Facebook and all that kind of thing. And they just like bang, they'd stepped in there. So there's not much of a silver lining out of this situation.
No, but
one of the silver linings was definitely a recalibration of how to use these tools. And it was beforehand, it was as crazy as not being able to use pens because you might write something that someone might find.
Yeah.
A lot of the concerns about using the technology. Now, there have been some challenges and some kind of getting your head around new things, like safeguarding procedures.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of worry about safeguarding and linking up with kids through digital ways. But when we stopped and thought about it, and we looked at the procedures and the legislation that's there, all it was a recalibration.
Yeah.
It didn't change what you need to look out for and what you need to report. It just meant you had to look at it in a slightly different way. In many ways, that you were finding out more about a young person's life. And I know in sort of allied professions, there have been a number of young people who have actually felt more comfortable talking to people through digital means. I mean, I've got to say, my little depression monkey that still hangs around in my head is quite like the relief from the slight social anxiety that seeing real people brings. Yeah. In terms of, I've probably kept more in touch with my family.
Absolutely.
Since the lockdown than before, because I don't feel like I've got any pressure to go around and see the buggers.
Totally, and it's a common message coming through. And we've had it on the live stream and in the Trouble Kids group that there are it's a range, isn't it? But there is a subset of people, young people, children, and families, for whom the digital engagement has been just a massive boon. There's no doubt about it. I was telling you, we were talking earlier in the day about Karen and I are involved in delivering food parcels as part of the church thing here. And for people to contact and say, I'm in need, to the point where I need, if there's food, can you bring me some? Yeah. That's so much easier to do with a text or answering an email on a website, or we use a church Facebook group that's in a community one, and they just say, I can, and they'll message you back channel, I need some food. I had 4 people yesterday, 4 families. And the digital platform makes that approach anxiety easier to navigate, doesn't it? And even though it can feel, from our point of view, partly because we're older and stuck in our ways, but partly because you lose that real sense of human presence, it can feel like a negative. But I think it's trying to see it objectively, isn't it? And
yeah, no, absolutely. And so I mean, that's one thing with the digital. The other thing that's impressed us has just been how, even under the current circumstances, the face-to-face stuff has been prioritised as well, in whatever means possible, whether that was 20 yards away at a doorstep or, or whatever it was. And I guess finally that what has also come through loud and clear has been the ever-present regard for participation, and for co-creation, and for so very quickly in the digital group we had people saying, what I'm concerned with this digital thing is it's a bit one way and it's a bit broadcast. So we have to make special efforts to make sure that there is as much consultation and doing things together in this form of youth work as there is in the face-to-face. So again, it's been that, like, you know, almost youth workers going, this is a new challenge, and this is how I'm going to solve it, rather than, oh, it's all gone wrong. And, you know, but I mean, it's been difficult. We mustn't like be glib either, because
no, it's very challenging.
The difficulty around furloughing, and particularly in the voluntary sector, in terms of their funding stream threat, and you know, to be particularly Welsh at the moment. One of my huge worries at the moment is the future of Welsh medium youth work. Through the Welsh language, because it's really fragile in Wales anyway.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of the funding that goes to Welsh youth work comes from local authorities, but also from revenue, from income. And a lot of that is coming from face-to-face activities, residentials, that kind of stuff. It's just gone up now. So we're all really concerned about that in youth work.
Well, absolutely. That brings some balance to it. Thank you, man. That's really, really helpful. Let me just nip on, see if there's any desperate questions that people have got. Bear with me a second. You can probably see that easier than me. We're also community workers who are involved with projects in the community, sporting activities, working other services in the community and within the county. Absolutely. Ellie's saying youth work is a recommendation from me, but their capacity is small. Now I've escalated to our local authority. The value of their roles great. Well done, Ellie. We need to promote.
There's some really good research now around. It's almost like a follow-on for the ACES research, which is much more about resilience. So I recommend you look at some of the Public Health Wales resilience reports, particularly the mental health one. And it might, you know, you look at the results from some of the surveys based stuff about resilience and mental health, and it might as well just say you need a youth worker when you're young.
Absolutely.
You know, in terms of the thing that makes a difference for people who've suffered adversity but then do all right.
Yes, completely. Brilliant, man. Gosh, it feels like we're just getting warmed up. We could carry on.
We could do so much more.
We could.
You have to come back on.
I'll come on yours now, and we'll continue the. Thanks for doing it, man. I'm really, really grateful. It's been good. Bless you.
It's been great. Thanks.
All right, take it steady. Cheers, man. There we go. My mate Dusty Kennedy. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Great. Right, I'm going to give you guys a really quick website recommendation. Let me just get onto it. So there is a link in the description. So if you're watching the playback on YouTube, you'll be able to get that. Please subscribe. So here is the website. Now, it's a Scottish website. It's called CELCIS, I'm assuming, or it might be CELCIS. I don't know. Don't suppose it really matters. So it's celcis.org. And it really, my take on it, there's quite a lot in here, but my take on it is that it's really a focus on children's care. There's quite a lot of child protection stuff as well, but there's a lot of stuff on residential care, particularly foster care and so on. But so I just share it with you. It might be useful. As I say, it's in the Scottish context, so some of it is Scotland specific, but actually it's very broad and wide in its usefulness, I think. So if I can find now, then there's a blog on here. Let me just have a look. Our work news. If I can find it. News knowledge bank. Okay, here we go. So there's various things relating to children in care. There is this one here, the CYCJ, Children and Young People's Experience in the Justice System during COVID. The CYCJ is another website that's well worth looking at and worth signing up if you're interested in youth justice particularly. That's useful. Now then, there is on here, I can't just see it for some reason, Knowledge Bank, let's go there. There is a blog, here we go. So there's all kinds, so CELCIS publications, and there is a blog here. There's some really good stuff on here. So there is a journal. Let's have a look at the journal a minute. So Scottish Journal of Residential Childcare. So you can scroll through. These are free to look at. You can look at the latest articles there. Let's have a quick look at those. So there's a lot of COVID related stuff at the moment, but there's some interesting things on there. Let me just take you back to the blog. Blogs are always worth a look at. If you haven't got into blogging, have a look, because it's brilliant. And if you just click the RSS feed that you normally get on most blogs, a little orange symbol, you'll get stuff sent down the line to you when it's published. So here we go. Maintaining momentum, upping the pace of change. That's to do with the youth justice system, but that's quite important because there's a whole there's been a whole lot of progress, good progress in my view, in recent years about not prosecuting kids in care who damage property and assault people. Now, sometimes you might choose to do that with harm to other people, but I don't think we should be prosecuting kids who are working out their stuff if we can possibly help it. Listening to what families need, realising children's rights to justice and care. So there's it's useful stuff on here. So I just commend that to you. This Spotlight On series is quite good as well. So like the Spotlight here on child sexual exploitation. Now you'll obviously get the Scottish spin on that, but actually there's all kinds of other information and links and things like that. What is sexual exploitation and how can you help? Look at all these links here, man. I mean, it's fantastic. So that's just one that I thought you guys might find useful. So that's CELCIS or CELCIS. I will put a link for that on the description as well. So let me just have a quick look at the comments, see if there's anything on here. Gerald saying, thanks to Dusty. Interesting discussion. Thank you, Jer. Joined at work, absolutely. Well done, Tim. Sorry, mate, you've had to go, but thank you for chipping in. Amanda, I would hate that. I'm not sure quite what you'd hate, Amanda, but I'm sure it's something. Fab. Lovely. Okie doke. So that brings us to, right, where have we got to? Question. Book giveaway. Right. Book giveaway. I've got a copy of this. So here's the deal. If you're new to this, we're streaming on the Trouble Kids group in Facebook. If you jump on the comments now, if you would like this copy of my, there you go, Working with Troubled Children and Teenagers book. I should give you a bit of a bit, because I haven't said to you what's in this, have I? So this has got chapters on. They're mainly one-word chapters. I think they're all one-word chapters. It's quite practice-based, this. This is basically my view of the world and dealing with troubled kids. So it's not a deeply research-driven tome. It's my reflections on a lifetime trying to help children really who have a bad run of it. So there's chapters on respect, trust, motivation, expectations, listening, excuse me, giving, that's giving yourself into the process, boundaries and integrity, act, you've got to act, you've got to follow up what you say you're going to do, that kind of stuff, perseverance, keeping going in it, some self-care stuff on that briefly. There's a whole chapter on touch and trying to link touch with child development and the importance of building touch into interactions in as much as possible that can be done safely. Really important. So I've talked about touch is normal, avoiding negative touch. What does okay touch look like? Have a relationship first, asking permission. The role of touch and the endocrine system in helping the body and the psyche to calm. So you can use touch in that way. The benefits of touch. So that's useful. Chapter 10 on touch. Payback is another one. What you get from doing it, really. The delights and the non-financial rewards of seeing kids improve is lovely. I love that. I mean, I get such joy out of that. And then I finish on self-care, really. So that's that one. If you want that, get on the comments now and just put me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play my fanfare just because it makes me laugh. I'm going to play the fanfare. That will give you about 5 or 6 seconds to write me in the stream, and then I will flick through the people who've written me and land on one randomly, and I'll send you the book. So if you'd like it, get in there and let's go to the fanfare. Right, here we go. Flick, flick, flick. Stop. Deborah Lysett Clements. Oh, I'm pleased for you, Deb. You're in here every week. Bless you. Let me just put a little heart-likey thing on there so that I remember, because I haven't got a pen here to write it down. Well done, Deborah. I'm delighted for you. What you'll need to do is email me. You'll be able to see that on the ticker here. Just email me your home address, Deborah, and I will get that in the post. And sorry, I'm just leaning over because I want you to see my excellent sheet of £1.63p a go stamps. So I can definitely get it to you, and you won't have the long wait that other people have had. Thank you, Laura, Lisa, Fiona, Helen and others, Jackie, Laura, Ellie, Gary, Joan, etc. Thank you for having a go. Bless you. I wish I had loads. I'd send you all one, honestly. Fab. So that's it. We're done, I think. Just to say, we will be on here next time. I can't remember what it is. Next week, 2nd or 3rd of July, I think, something like that. So we'll be here next Wednesday at noon again. For the Trouble Kids live stream. I've got another website that at least I want to give you. Also, just to say that Harry the Hound Book 2 is out now, or is about to be out. I've kind of ordered mine about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago now. So I'm hoping at some point we'll feature that and I'll review that. There's a link to that on the page, Trouble Kids page. I will put a link in the YouTube description as well, if I think on, because I'd like to look at that. I've got a website I want to show you next week. So please put your comments on the page. It's really useful to me. I want to meet need that's out there and speak to questions that you guys are interested in. So let me know what you want to know about. I'm particularly interested to know if you think that interview format is useful to you. Just email me, drop me a line, DM me on Twitter. You can get it all on the feeds there, and let me know. I want to do stuff that's going to help you, and if you don't tell me what it is, I can't do that. So I've got several people in my head who I know would be willing to come on, but obviously I'd be trying to select that based on what you guys need. So if you've got questions, stick it in the comments. YouTube, Facebook, or directly through email or through the trmacademy.com website or the contact page on my website, jonnymatthew.com. And just let me know what you think so that we can put it together to suit you. Fantastic. So that's it. I think we're done. YouTube replay will be up in the morning, and I'm going to get on and address an envelope so Deborah can have a book this side of Christmas. So bless you all. Thank you for coming on. I'm incredibly grateful. As I said last week, and it's totally true, I really look forward to this. It's always a little bit nervy and there's a bit of work in it, but actually I look forward to it. It feels like I've been with my mates for an hour. So thank you for that. Thanks once again to Dusty Kennedy. Excellent chap. I hope that was useful to you all. Stay safe. Look after yourself. You are your most important client. Keep busy on that group, and I will see you next week, if not before. Bless you. Cheers.